Was there a big coming out story for you?
It wasn't big. Like, I was already out to like my friends and parents in sixth form, and I turned up on the first day and moved in to my flat, and it was with 5 girls. So we were all in the kitchen, and it was like, oh, where are you from? Da da da. Oh, I've got a boyfriend, and I was like, no, I'm gay. I just did it on the first day. The first opportunity, I was just like, I'm gonna get it out.
Yeah.
Get it out
And
there.
how was that perceived?
It was fine. They were just like, oh yeah, my boyfriend's called Brad. I don't know. Da da da. So that was fine.
Oh, okay.
And then it kind of took me a little while to sort of find my people. Like, I had friends on my course, and I was friends with the girls that I lived with. But it wasn't until maybe a month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in that I went to the first like LGBT network social.
And is that because you weren't aware of it then, or is it just like, I'll do that later?
Oh no, I was aware. So like, there are a few people in my block who were like in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
So that's how I met one of my best friends. Actually, I messaged him like, "Are you going to the LGBT social on Friday?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's go together."
Oh, cool.
We've been best friends ever since. But it was then when I like, on that first night out, kind of met a few different people, and we really got on, and
it's all cross-discipline and
across different year groups, across different degrees.
Yeah.
Like, there are a few international students as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's when I found like my core little group of friends, and we like spent the whole year hanging out and doing stuff together. And then the international students left, and like we kind of floated apart. But for that first year, those were like my cool people where I felt really comfortable.
I'm very privileged in that my parents were fine and very accepting, but I do have a lot of diverse history.
Oh,
so
okay.
like, I come from an Indian family
Oh, okay.
on my dad's side, and then my dad's mother is also Catholic.
Oh, right. So
it's not very easy coming out as a Hindu and a Catholic.
No, but they were supportive then.
They were very supportive in the end, which was the one thing we were worried about. So my mum's sister is actually a lesbian.
Oh, okay.
So luckily it's very much more accepted in my mum's side. But in terms of on my dad's side, like, it was never really spoken about. Like, no one in our family was gay that we knew of, or LGBT, do you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I don't really like labels. Like, I just think it should be like, you're either, this is how I say it, you're either fruity or you're straight. You know what I mean? Like, fruity just takes, a lot of people like find it hard to come to terms with who they are.
Yeah.
And I think if there's less pressure on it and you're just fruity, like, people like, it's more fun and it's more playful, and people are less judgmental because you just are who you are, and I don't judge people for it. So like, I had a friend going through a very similar thing at a similar time, and I think like it was very easy because we both did it together. And like, he was a friend from school, he was lovely. We were like egging each other on, come on, let's do it, let's finally do it, do you know what I mean? And I'm very open with my family, like, I tell them anything, and like, to have that secret for 16 years is very like tough. A lot of times you think, wow, that person's good looking, but then is it like they're good looking because you fancy them, or is it good looking because you want to be them? And as a kid, I'm assuming everyone thought they wanted to be like that person.
I mean, within terms of like the LGBTQ plus community, everyone that I've met and sort of come out to so far has been lovely. And in doing so, you actually get quite a lot of people also coming out to you, and the other way around too. But I've not had anything negative.
I mean, do you get a different approach of the way you look because you've got long hair, you know, that kind of
a lot
feminine,
of people do assume that because I present more femininely that I am just like she, her.
Okay.
Sort
and
of.
so it's that kind of thing. Is that does that make it different or easier, or has that changed over time?
It makes it a little bit more difficult because people do just assume from the get-go how you identify.
And almost put you into a box. Visually.
Definitely. And then having to actually make that step to come out to people, it's like, if you don't do it the first time that you meet them, it's then a little bit awkward doing it further on. But it sort of just has to happen. It doesn't bother me too much. I know some people it does bother a lot, but it's never something that's upset me too much.
Okay, so you're obviously quite, you're confident in who you are, and
I'm aware that I present more femininely, and I know that because I'm non-binary, I don't owe people androgyny. Despite identifying, I suppose, in an androgynous way. I was non-binary, so just using they, them for a little over a year now, I suppose. I think that's about right. Over the summer, I met someone who uses just it's pronouns. And then since talking to them about their experiences and everything going on with using that as a pronoun, it's sort of, I think it's stuck in my mind without me actually realising.
Yeah.
And then more recently I thought, why not try it?
Yeah.
See what it goes like. I think people don't really want to bring it up because it's a neopronoun and lesser known. People don't want to ask questions in case it comes across as the wrong way.
Yeah.
I wish people would ask more questions. It's the fear of getting it wrong that people do tend to just stick to using they, them because that's already in your mind.
Yeah.
That's easier to use. But I do wish people would just ask more questions because every time I have a conversation like this, it's eye-opening to me as well. And it's important that other people do just learn how to use those pronouns as well and people's experiences. I mean, it is still quite new to me.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've used a lot. So I am sort of still getting used to other people referring to me by it, but every time someone does, you get like a little bit of a rush of like, it feels really nice that it has been used.
What I wanted to do when I came to uni, I was like, look, I've got no sort of pretenses, I've got no one sort of with any expectation. So when I came to uni, I was like, look, I'm not gonna go into the closet from the get-go kind of thing. I'm gonna just be like, yeah, I like guys kind of thing. It was always going to be scary, but it was sort of, you kind of find your people at university, and sort of, I guess everyone from the LGBT community just kind of clusters together.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good that the university culture has allowed that. And
what was weird though was going back home after that.
Oh, okay.
Because it was very much like you turn a switch back off.
Did you notice a change, or did family notice a change in you?
I felt a change sort of because you just kind of become sort of not more secluded, but you just kind of, you're not as open and as expressive about your experience if you're like.
And that's always different with family anyway, isn't it? When you've been with your peers and then you go back home and.
So it was a bit weird. Even sort of most of my friends at home still didn't know. So when we were meeting up at Christmas, I was like, I've got all these stories to tell of what I've been up to, but I've got to like leave out certain sections because I'm like, can't tell them. You sort of get to a point where you can just feel like you can drop in these comments where it's like, oh yeah, I got with the guy last night kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hang on a second. Basically, I come from a Catholic family, lots of cousins, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And so I came out to my siblings first. Didn't tell mum and dad, sort of, because I'm quite close with the siblings. When exam season hit, I got a text from my sister, and she was like, by the way, I accidentally told dad.
Oh God. Oh no.
And it was like day of my first exam, and I was like, it's such a crushing feeling when you get that text, and it's like, oh no. So sort of went back for the summer and still didn't tell mum, but I was in that awkward situation where it's like, okay, dad knows, but mum doesn't. And if it comes out that dad knows and mum doesn't, it's going to cause a problem because she's going to think, oh no, like, does he not feel comfortable around me, that kind of thing.
And then after that, how was your father? How was your dad?
Yeah, he wasn't too bad actually. He was pretty good about it. He's fairly chill about these kind of things. I then later came out to mum and dad sort of probably about October time, the second year. And it was still weird. I don't know if you get it, but you know when you just can't say, oh, mum and dad, I'm gay.
Yeah.
It's always like I'm seeing someone.
Yeah.
And his name is blah blah. Doing a sport like American football, like I feel like I can kind of pass quite well as being straight. So I sort of, it's the classic cliche of I don't bring it up in training because it's not really relevant. It doesn't have any impact on my ability to go and tackle someone. So I just never mentioned it kind of thing, but never said anything like, oh yeah, I've got a girlfriend kind of thing, and tried to hide it. But what that meant was that people didn't realise that sometimes when they would make a gay joke or when they would make a comment or a joke, they didn't realise that was like not okay because they thought that they could get away with it. Yeah, it got to a point where sort of, I think there was something said in the group chat, so in front of everyone, and I was like, look, I can either say like nothing, do nothing about it, or I can just say something to them privately, or I can say something in front of everyone. And it was over Christmas holidays, so I was just like, right, let's bite the bullet, because if I say something now, hopefully it means that these kind of things won't happen again. It's not like I have to keep having these conversations. So I basically in the group chat like, look guys, I'm gay, this is not okay kind of thing. Which was quite scary, I'm not gonna lie. But saying that, I genuinely was not expecting the level of support that these guys gave. Like, there were just so many people messaging me being like, hey, that's sort of like, that was really brave of you, like, good on you for kind of sort of saying something.
No, definitely, that is.
And so many people like hearting the message. So it was really nice. I wasn't expecting that level of kind of support, because again, like while people have stereotypes about gay people, sort of I've also got these kind of misconceptions about like how people are going to take it.
Yeah.
When I came out, this was still like right in the midst of COVID, so we were still working from home at this point. And I remember like I had some Teams meeting where I was like, hey, guess who's trans? It's me. And then like the big thing I remember is like the first meeting I had afterwards, again, still over Teams.
Yeah.
I tried to put some makeup on. I've been doing a bit of makeup all the time, and I looked terrible. And no one pointed it out, but it just really affected my like, you know, previously I didn't care because I was presenting as male, like so I knew I looked bad, but I was like, I don't care because, but then trying to like present as femme and then kind of failing was rough. But over time I got a bit more confident with makeup, and by the end of lockdown I was like doing it more often, and I was starting to wear some feminine clothing. But when we went back to the office a couple of years ago, I didn't wear dresses because I was not confident. I wore a blouse and like dark trousers because it was vaguely androgynous.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, this is as much as I want to get away with because I don't think I can get away with dresses. It's only been about a year or so where I finally felt confident being like, yeah, I don't look perfect, but like my hair's okay, my makeup's okay. The hormones are kicking in a bit. I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna wear a dress. And then just one day, like last year, I just did it. To be honest, there's like another practical reason why I wear dresses, and that's because I get misgendered less. There was a time, a few weeks ago where I was in a blouse and I was in the queue getting coffee, and then like some person who worked at university was like, oh, I'll just let this, you know, this guy in, and I was like, okay. Oh. It was nice afterwards because like my manager was there and she was like constantly referring to me like, yeah, she's in line. And so it was very nice her being spotted, and she brought it up later in the meeting and was making sure I was okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's really affirming that they've addressed that.
The thing you get used to is repeating your transition story over and over. Yeah. Basically, you know, at the start I was like, well, I figured out I was trans through such and such, and then I guess hormones did this. But as you get to know people, as like, you know, you switch roles or you meet new people, like you do kind of get this like elevator pitch for like your transition. I was just
going to say elevator pitch.
Escalate, but even like, you know, you do have to like summarize everything down to like 5 minutes because you know eventually it's going to come up and you're like, yeah, I'm trans. I figured that out about 4 or 5 years ago. I came out at this date, I started hormones this date. You know, I started wearing dresses, blah, blah, blah. So you do have this kind of like, you eventually just from like introducing yourself to other people. Like, for example, after I came out to my team, I realized there were like certain colleagues who didn't work in my team, but I was like communicating with intermittently. And at the start, I would like send them an email being like, hi, by the way, I'm trans. Haha, let me know if you have any questions. And by the end of it, there were like 6 months in, I would have like important questions for other teams. And I would just be like, hi, such and such, A, I'm trans, haha. B, important question, because I was just like, I don't have time to explain transition. Yeah. I need to ask you about this applicant. This is very important. So that was something I had to consider, because they'd be like, who's Heather Nelson? That sounds a lot like the other person. So you do, you know, thankfully none of them were weird about it, but you did have to consider it was like, oh yeah, this person knew me as my old self. Well, I realized I was trans about 4 years ago, basically. Yeah. So I came out about 2 years ago. So it hasn't been that long, but before I realized I was trans, which happened when I was Googling like, hey, how do trans people realize they were trans? Just hoping to educate myself. Yeah. And then realizing that, oh no, this is me. You know, I knew something was wrong. You know, I knew I was unhappy with myself, but I didn't really understand what. Yeah. But at the same time, I think there's this assumption where it's like all trans people know who they are from birth. You know, they're always like, oh, I played with dolls when I was like 4, but that never happened to me. I think in retrospect, there's things you look at yourself where it's like, oh yeah, I never liked sports. I never, you know, I always felt weirdly jealous, like, you know, women in TV and in the playground, and I never quite identified with this like male thing. And it's like in of themselves, you know, you don't want to be, I guess, deterministic, right? It's like boys do this, girls do this. Yeah. But like they kind of snowball together, and then you realize that like, oh yeah, like experimenting with like female presentation like 10 years ago wasn't just some weird like response to negative event. It was like you trying to discover your transness, but you didn't understand it at the time. Yeah. And you didn't understand what like gender dysphoria was. When you looked at yourself in the mirror and you hated what you looked like that didn't mean you weren't trans. That just meant you were experiencing gender dysphoria, which means you it's like you get jealous of like the queer youth as well when I see like trans students. It's like, yeah, I joined a university and I'm transitioning already. It's like, I hate you, but also I'm happy for you, but I'm so jealous. But if I come out as trans at like 2005, that would have been a terrible decision because you saw reality shows at that time. So there's been a lot of change, and you know, while on the one hand I'm seethingly jealous of all these like students who are able to present and be comfortable as who they are, I'm also very happy that change has happened.
Yeah,
so,
and you're part of that change. So be very,
the grand old elder queer of 29 years old. Yeah.